time. So we're going to go ahead and kick off this call. Welcome to week 3 of the 8-week team leader development call, as well as the 2025 director search. As you guys know, we put together this call to fill in whatever gaps there may be in actually building the business, turning you into network marketing professionals so you can go out there and make that professional income, as well as getting ready to create massive momentum. You know, we had a great conversation, Mr. Tim Herr and Mr. Larry Thompson, and a lot of you are on the wealth building call, so you got a chance to get a chance to know who he is. And, you know, we predict that we are 1 year away from massive momentum. So what does that mean? As much as we've done in Remon, as many of the success stories that we've created, as many of the promotions, directors, senior directors, national directors, we're just barely getting started. You see, in business, there's an S curve, right? First, there's a creation stage, then the formulation stage, right? Concentration stage, momentum, and then sustainability. We have not even hit momentum yet. And so what we're doing right now is we're developing the next wave of leaders, right? And as you all know, we're building to a major impending event that we have going on in our business. You know, later on this month, we have our Black Friday sale. Remon Black Friday will be one for the books. And many of you, just in that short period of time when those promotions are released, you're going to make more in that short period of time frame than you did all month, right? Most of your production is going to come from that. And so what does that mean? That means when it comes to Christmas time, we're all going to get very, very good checks. It's going to be a beautiful Christmas. And it might not be a white Christmas, but for sure it'll be a green Christmas, right? The Christmas of cash. And so what's very, very important is not just to capitalize on that, but we need to go out there and sneak as many people into the business as much as possible so they can take advantage of the Black Friday sale. But not just that, but also get as many people to the position of manager as possible. Why? So they can double their commissions on all their personal orders and their personal customers during this Black Friday sale, okay? So let's go ahead and dive into it. We're going to talk about the glue to our business, which is relationships, right? Relationships make all the difference. And really the purpose of this presentation is to explore how strong interpersonal connections can be the glue that holds everything together, leading to greater success and fulfillment. You see, in this business, right, people quit businesses all the time, but they don't quit family and friends. And so when you build strong relationships with your team, the people that you work with, right, you build that community, you build that camaraderie, that's what's going to keep people into the business, right? That's what keeps people involved. And we're going to share with you how to actually build relationships, what to highlight, what to focus on, and more importantly, what to develop. So let's go ahead and dive into the information, right? One of the biggest things that stood out to me when I first got involved in this industry, I remember sitting in a training. It was a Saturday training with Mr. Tim Herr, and he shared something that was so powerful. He shared this when it comes to working with people. He shared this when it comes to inviting people to take a look at the business. And he says, Julian, he goes, you want to look at everybody as if they had the words, make me feel important on their forehead. Because at the end of the day, what drives us, right, is to feel seen, heard, and valued. Right? That's why we do everything we do. It doesn't matter if you ask somebody, what is your goal? Why do you want to build this business? It doesn't matter if they say, I want a Lamborghini, I want a Ferrari, I want to get rich. Because at the end of the day, right, as superficial as those things may sound, the more you dig deep into it, why is that? Well, because, you know, those are symbols of success in the modern times. Okay, well, why is that important? Well, because if I have those things, people are going to look at me as if I'm successful. Okay, why is that important? Well, because if I'm successful, people are going to respect me. Well, why is that important? Well, because you know what? Growing up, you know, my family didn't have a lot. And, you know, we missed out a lot of opportunities. People looked down on us because we grew up in very humble beginnings. So you take a look at something that started off as a Lamborghini, as a Ferrari, you break it down. And it's really to be able to heal the pain of growing up and being looked down upon and not feeling respected, right? And I share that with you because we all have our goals. We all have our dreams. And if you really take the time to break down that why, which we talked about in week number 1, you will find out that what drives us is that we're all searching for a very, very specific experience. And that experience is to feel special. It's to feel valued. It's to feel heard, right? It's to feel like we're an important piece to the puzzle and not just another cog in this giant wheel, okay? And so the first aspect of building relationships in your business is to make people feel special. And how do you do that? It's really by highlighting and giving people genuine compliments, right? Genuine compliments go a long way in making people feel valued and appreciated. And remember, when I say genuine compliments, right, I don't mean flattery. I mean sincere compliments, right? Noticing somebody, right, not just for what they do, but for how they show up. You know, one of the biggest things that I teach in my seminars is there's a big difference between appreciation and acknowledgement, right? Acknowledgement is noticing and thanking somebody for something that they've done, Appreciating somebody is noticing them for how they are or who they're being, right? So for example, let's just say, my wife or my fiance, right, soon to be wife, goes out of her way. She knows I have a long morning ahead of me. She went out early and she came back and she thought to buy me, my favorite cup of coffee, right, which is, a red eye, right? It's a black coffee with 2 shots of espresso in it. And she, went out of her way to buy that for me. Acknowledgement would be like, hey, sweetheart, thank you so much, for buying me that cup of coffee. I really, it means a lot to me. Appreciation sounds more like this. Sweetheart, I just want to share with you that I appreciate how thoughtful you are and how giving you are. You went out to take care of things in the morning and, you thought about me and my long day and you went out and got me a cup of coffee and I really feel appreciated. And I just want to thank you for being so thoughtful and loving and caring, right? It's a lot different. Okay. So when you want to make people special, you want to highlight qualities that they have, not necessarily actions that they take. Those are important too, but notice qualities that they show up in. And here's what's amazing, right? And when I say relationships, this works in business, it works in your regular relationships as well. One of the things I've learned in life is that what you appreciate, appreciate. Let me say it again. What you appreciate, appreciates, right? When you highlight somebody for doing something, guess what? They're going to want to do more of it. So highlight the behavior, highlight the actions, highlight the results that you want your team culture to have. And when you point that out and you notice it in people, guess what happens? Number one, they're going to feel special. And number two, it's going to validate that what they're doing is correct. They're on the right path. And it's going to give them hope. And more important, it's going to push them higher, right? Sincere praise that highlights specific positive qualities or actions shows that you've noticed and genuinely care about the recipient, right? Which is the person that you're talking to, your team member. And guess what? This can boost self-esteem. It can foster stronger connections. It can make someone truly feel special. And why is that so important? Because as you know, this business is simple, but it's not easy, right? In fact, a lot of the things I want to say, you probably heard me say it before, but I'm going to say it over and over again. Why? Because to really drive that point home. And most people quit in business, not because it's hard, but actually because they thought it was going to be easy. And so imagine when we go out there in the battlefield of business, right? We're going to get rejected. Not everybody that we talk to is going to be open, right? Not every guest that we invite is actually going to show up. Not everybody that shows up is actually going to get started. And not everybody that gets started, right, is going to rank advance and, to the position of manager or even higher. Is it because of the business? No, right? Obviously, there's so many deciding factors. We are, at the end of the day, the deciding factor whether we succeed or not. But as you go out in business, we're going to go through road bumps. We're going to hit challenges. And what happens is that's going to make us question whether what we're doing is right or not. It's going to make us question whether we're on the right track, right? And when we get sincere compliments and we feel noticed, especially from the people we look up to, and guess what, ladies and gentlemen, if you're leading people, right, people are looking up to you. Does that make sense? And that's why it's our responsibility as they push us up to higher ranks, we reach down and pull them up, right? There's no such thing as a self-made person. Every person is team-made. And that's what I love so much about this industry. What I love so much about Remon, because think about it. You cannot hit the position of team leader unless you help 3 people become a senior manager and you help 7 people become manager. You cannot become a director unless you help 3 people become team leaders. You cannot become a senior director unless you help 2 people become, directors. And you can't become a national director unless you help 4 people could become directors. And you can't hit, I'm just kidding, I can't tell you what the next rank is or the requirements. I'm not even sure if I'm supposed to know, so I don't want to get anybody in trouble. But yes, right? Ever since we joined the company, Team 1%, everything that we're creating, we're blowing past ranks that now they're going to be creating new ranks, right? But I digress. But why do I share that with you? Because notice, as you move higher in the company, the requirement is you have to go out there and develop people. And how do we develop people? By getting them to see in themselves what they have not been able to see before, right? By being able to reach inside them, flipping that switch, igniting that fire for them to go out there and make it happen in their lives, okay? Now, the other thing that we have to understand is that when we lead people, we need to provide hope for a better tomorrow. That's what people need, hope for a better tomorrow. And how do we, and why is that so important? Because most people do not believe in a better tomorrow. Most people cannot imagine their life. Most people want it. Most people desire it, but most people cannot imagine their life transforming in a short period of time. Right? They don't imagine that their life can go from tragic to magic, that they can go from, skeptic to believer in a short period of time. And I'm here to share with you, it's absolutely possible, right? My mentor used to tell me, he goes, man, it's so sad when people say it looks too good to be true. And I go, why is that so sad? He goes, it just means, and it shows that they don't know how great life can be. And that's when it sparked me. He says, Julian, as a leader, it's up to us to show them how great life can be, right? To help them reach higher than they thought was possible, to go further than what they thought was possible, and to become more than what they thought was possible. So how do you provide, hope for a better tomorrow for people? Well, number one is to show them hope. And how do we do that? By going out there, leading by example, by demonstrating positive behaviors and actions that inspires others to follow suit and contribute to a better future, right? Guess what? Your people are going to do what you do. And it's very, very important that we lead by example because, again, I share this in every single training. It's easier to lead by example than its opinion. Because think about it. If you're crushing a whole bunch of calls, it's easier to ask your team to crunch a bunch of calls, right? If you're excited, it's easier to ask your team to be excited. If you're motivated, it's easier to ask your team to be motivated. It's way easier to ask something of your team if they see that you're doing that and you're giving more. Okay. So again, leading by example, making those phone calls, right? And again, leading by example, what does that look like? Right? We talk about building relationships as the glue, right? Giving sincere, compliments. That's leading by example. Taking this information you're learning from this training, taking any information you learn from any training Remon does that your team is on, when they see you implement it, when they see you take action on it, they see that you're coachable. So guess what? You're giving them hope. If they're coachable, they can have those same results, right? And not just that, but they see that you're not just a dictator. You're not just someone on an ivory throne telling people what to do. And that's how most people view most bosses today. They see you as a general, as a leader in the army, leading from the front lines, charging into battle, right? Showing them what to do. And I think that's what's huge. Okay. Next, how do we provide hope for a better tomorrow? By empowering and encouraging others, right? By uplifting and supporting individuals in your team to take active steps towards achieving a brighter tomorrow through their own efforts. And this one's huge. In the very beginning, and again, we're going to talk about this in the later weeks when we talk about how to start people up versus signing people up. What's the difference, right? In the very beginning, the mindset you have when you train somebody, when I sit down with somebody, I launch them, I'd say, hey, in the very beginning, I'm going to treat you like you work for me. Okay. And here's what I mean. I said, I'm going to treat you like you work for me. What that means is I'm not going to wait for you to ask me what to do. I'm going to tell you what you need to do, what the next steps are. Okay. And I go, in this business, in the very beginning, I'm going to do 100% of everything. I'm going to do all the presentations. I'm going to do all the K pop-ups. I'm going to do all the closes, all the launches, which is the orientation. I'm going to do all the strategies. I just want you to be there with a notepad and pen, taking notes, watching and learning. Because I want you to learn it so one day you don't need me and you can do it on your own. You see how I'm already setting up the expectations. And I let them know, hey, in the beginning, I'm going to do 100%. But don't worry, as you get more confident in this business, guess what? I'm going to do 80% and I'm going to start giving you 20%. I'm going to let you do the easier stuff, right? That's easier to get into. And as you build more confidence, eventually it's going to go 60-40. I do 60% of the work, you do 40. Then it's 50-50. Maybe you'll go up and you'll talk about, the company. You're going to talk about the heritage ingredients. You're going to talk about the products and the different lines. And then I'm going to come up, talk about the rewards program, and then I'm going to close it out, right? And then eventually what happens, then it's going to go 40-60, right? I do 40%, you do 60%, and then I do 20, you do 80. And eventually where we want to get to is where you're doing 100% of the work while I clap and cheer you on, right? And so what does that look like by empowering, encouraging others? You have to understand what stops a lot of people from taking action is fear and doubt. And the only way to remove fear and doubt is by taking action. And we talk about fear, right? What is fear? My favorite definition of fear I've ever heard is that fear is a mile wide, but an inch deep. Think about that for a second. Fear is a mile wide, but an inch deep. On the surface, when you look at it, it looks endless. Fear looks larger than life and huge. But once you get into it, you dive into it, what do you realize? That you are standing taller than your fear and it's not that deep. So it's our job as leaders, guess what? To bridge that gap for them of their fear and to let them see that what they're afraid of is not as big as they think. So what does that look like, right? It might look like in the very beginning, hey, they won't even know, but I show up and I go, hey, I want to let you know, I believe in you. You got this today. You've seen this enough times. I want you to go over the company and the products. And they're going to be some pushback. They're going to be nervous. I'm going to say, hey, you got this. Trust in yourself. Worst case, the slides are there, the bullet points are there. Just read it with enthusiasm. You see how I took the big fear and made it a lot smaller, right? And then guess what? After the presentation, guess what? I'm going to highlight everything that they did well. I might give them some constructive feedback, but more importantly, I'm going to highlight what they did well. So guess what? They're going to do more of it, right? Then it might come down to they're scared, they're nervous, right? Or whatever it is. And I might say nothing. And I'm going to have them show up and handle it, push them into the deep end because I know they can swim, right? And when they come out of it, they're going to come out of it stronger, better, more excited, more confident because they're going to realize, like, man, that wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be. And you know what? I could have done a lot better. Think about that. Their mind has just been expanded. That's how you empower and encourage others, right? By challenging them, right? It also happens, right? You provide a better tomorrow by fulfilling your commitments, right? We talked about this in week number 2, that your word needs to be gold. It needs to be like gravity. People can count on it. Do what say what you do, but also do what you say. And the biggest one that I think that most of us don't really highlight as much, and we think it's small, but celebrating incremental successes, right? Obviously, in this business, there's a lot of great milestones, right? But you want to acknowledge and appreciate the small wins and positive changes that occur along the way to sustain momentum and optimism for the future. So what are small wins? What are incremental success, right? Them actually going out, them setting up a K pop-up, putting a deadline, saying, hey, we're going to set one up, right? That's something to applaud. That's something to encourage. And then guess what? When they go out there and invite guests, celebrate that they invited guests, whether they show up or not. They went out there, they took action. Celebrate that guests showed up, whether they signed up or not, right? People signed up, celebrate that. And if you're taking notes, one of the things that I've learned early on, the magic formula, is it usually takes 3 small wins to create momentum. 3 small wins to create big momentum. So go out there and celebrate incremental successes, right? Because for whatever reason, we all think that in order to succeed, every action we take needs to be a home run. It needs to be a grand slam, World Series, right? But in reality, if you look at most baseball games, how are most baseball games won, right? Success is found in simply swinging singles. What does that mean? Just simply getting on base. So if you look at this business like a game of baseball, you want to celebrate every time they go up to bat, every time they get on base, right? Every time they make a play. Because what are you doing? You're reinforcing the behavior you want them to take. But more importantly, you're letting them know they're doing a great job. Because how many of us are overcritical by nature, right? We tend to beat ourselves up. We criticize everything that we do. And for some of us, because of our past traumas and experiences, we feel like nothing we do is ever good enough. And sometimes we need someone that we love, trust, and respect to come in and, highlight and remind us that we are doing a great job, that we're not that far off, right? That we're a lot closer than we think, right? So you want to make sure that you go out there and do that. Now, the other thing that people need, right, that helps build the relationship and the glue to the business is, as leaders, we need to offer direction and navigation. Okay. We need to offer direction and navigation. How do we do that? Number one, by providing purpose and vision, right? Obviously, we have a team vision. Team 1% has a vision, being the number one producing organization, which it is. But you need to also have your own purpose and vision. What's your purpose and vision, right? That fits into this giant thing, right? My vision is different than Tim's vision, different than Chris Kim's vision, right? Different than Susan, Brianna's, Tara, right? All the leaders, we have a different vision for our lives and business. But guess what? All of our visions fill in to the global Remon vision, which is to become a $10 billion company, right? And so what is your vision? When you talk about your why, when you talk about your purpose, why you're doing what you're doing, it pulls people together, right? And when you give your team a clear understanding of the end goal and why it's important, it inspires them with a compelling vision that captures their hearts and minds, right? One of the vision right now for Team 1%, just to share with you, we had about 20 director promotions from the organization as a whole. And the goal is to have 30, 40, maybe even 50 director promotions in Vegas. And when Tim shared that vision, right, on our director call, I heard that, and my mind immediately went, okay, that's the vision, right? I'm thinking about real estate, right? If there's only 50 spots, that's the goal of promotions. How many of those director promotions do I want coming from my group? And guess what? I take that vision, I go back and I talk to the organizations like, hey guys, convention's coming up March 14th to 16th. The goal is to have a parade of team leader and director promotions, right? We want to fill up the whole stage. We want to clap, cheer. Imagine grinding it out, 90 days of pain, right? 90-day runs, 90 days of pain for a lifetime of gain to have your whole life change. What if we just got serious for the next several months up until convention? Gave it everything we got, showed up when we're supposed to show up, do everything we're supposed to do, and do it how we're supposed to do it. How great will it feel to walk that stage as a brand new director, but with all knowing at the same time you have 3 team leaders that you help get there as well, right? So sharing them that vision, that picture. Imagine in Vegas when we go to that team leader, recognition event on Friday night. How big do you want that to be? How much of do you want it to be in your group? How big are you going to celebrate when we get there? Okay. So provide purpose and vision and always talking about it. I mean, today, earlier I was on the call with Marisol. She's one of my team leaders. She went all the way up to San Jose, completely crushed it, right? Doing K pop ups, for estheticians and everything like that. And I was at a car meet and looking at different cars. And I just stopped. I just thought, like, I was looking at all the cars, talking to Marisol. I was like, you know what, Marisol, I can see you in a Bentley or a Rolls Royce, right? Because if you know Marisol, you're like, that's definitely her type of car. And she's like, I really want a Rolls Royce, right? And so imagine like simple conversations like that. Guess what? It's getting people to think bigger, thinking possible. Because I know in the very beginning, some people just want to offset some bills, and that's great, right? You want to remind them why they're doing it, but once they offset some bills, you want to expand the vision to something even bigger. I remember when I first got started, I told Chris, I was like, hey, Chris, like, like I'll build this business with you. I miss working with you guys. My life's good right now, but if I make an extra 10 grand a month doing this part time, like that'd be cool. I can still do fitness, add an extra six-figure income. And you know what Chris said to me? He goes, Julian, you're so talented and gifted. Like I've known you for so long. Like, why would you set the bar so low? And you know what? In that moment, he reminded me of who I was, what I've done in the past. And I stopped and I said, man, you're right. Like, when did I start thinking so small? And, I start setting bigger targets, right? And again, that's how you get people hope. That's how you build relationships. Because when he said that, I said, you're right. And I looked at it, I was like, man, here's my mentor, my older brother who believes more in me than I believe in myself. I should believe in myself more. Right. And guess what? That strengthened my relationship with Chris. Right. And it also built a stronger bond. And also because he believes so much in me, I'm like, I don't want to let him down. And, if that's what he sees, I'm going to do my best to live up to that. Right. Next is you want to establish milestones and checkpoints, right? You want to let the company take care of the big promotions, but us as an organization, you want to take care of the small promotions. So you want to establish milestones and checkpoints, right? Celebrate the first K pop-up, celebrate their first planner, celebrate their first promotion, whether it's, when they hit manager, celebrate that, right? Celebrate everything along the way, no matter how big or how small. Why? Because regular check-ins help keep everyone on track. And guess what? It provides a sense of progress. They need to visualize and visually see that they're growing, right? Whether it's growing mentally, emotionally, or financially, right? Or physically, as in the organization, right? You want to demonstrate a path forward. And you're going to always hear me say it over and over again. Why? Because it's so important. Leading by example, showing your team the specific steps they need to take, right? By providing guidance, tools, and resources for them to navigate the journey. But at the same time, you also want to empower decision making within your team, right? You want to equip your team with authority and autonomy to make informed decisions, to trust their judgment and provide the necessary support. A lot of times when situations arise, I don't just naturally go into coaching first. I want to see where their mind's at. And I often ask them, what do you think is the best course of action in this scenario? And what does that do, right? It provides them, right, as leader to start thinking of themselves as leaders, to become proactive and start becoming solution oriented versus leader dependent, right? Because you don't want to build an organization where your team depends on you. Now, let me tell you something, okay? There's insecure leaders and there's secure leaders. Insecure leaders need to be needed. Secure leaders need to be succeeded. You want to be the type of leader that wants to be succeeded. You want your people to do better than you. And guess what? If you have enough people doing better than you in multiple leagues, you're going to be making money just fine. And because they're better than you, you're going to be check matching on them at the same time. So your check's going to go up, right? One of my favorite quotes in the world, it goes, no matter how much money Kobe Bryant makes, and Kobe Bryant was considered, the GOAT of all time in basketball, right? They go, no matter how much money Kobe Bryant makes, the guy cutting his check makes more money, right? And that's huge, right? Think about it. No matter how much money the top UFC athlete makes, guess what? The UFC who cuts his check makes more money, right? So it's better, in my opinion, to be the king and queen maker than the king and queen. But that's a separate conversation that we're going to save for another day, okay? So you want to empower decision making, right? You want to encourage them, be open to ideas, but then offering them suggestions and guidance, okay? Next is you want to foster an environment of collaboration and teamwork. I think that's so important. You want to be able to create your organization to encourage open communication, cooperation, more importantly, collaboration, right? Mutual support, and to ensure that everyone understands their role and how they contribute to the overall success. I talked to, Miss Susan Manuelo, very, very often, Mr. Tim Herr, Mr. Chris Kim as well. And I know Brianna Michaels as well. And we all collaborate together and work together. I mean, the Team 1% Friday leadership calls, that's a teamwork. That's collaborative effort. We're all getting on there as directors above. to train even people that are not in our organization, because as leaders, we understand the value of giving, right? The value of sharing the information that, as we all do, as one person does well, we all do well. Okay. So let's talk about the next step, right? When you want to build relationships in this business, you have to cater to people's selfishness. Now, I know oftentimes we look at selfishness as a bad thing, and I want to share with you it's neither good nor bad, right? It's how you're using it. Is it, hurting people? Is it in alignment with your vision, right? But sometimes we need to be selfish. We have to prioritize ourselves. Okay. And now when I say cater to their selfishness, here's what I mean. Okay. Everybody's favorite radio station is WIFF, WIIFM. Sorry, I couldn't spell for a second. WIIFM. And what that radio station is, it's what's in it for me, right? So understand that when you're working with your team, you're talking to your organization, right? Yes, they care about you. They want to see you get promoted. They want to see you do well. But at the end of the day, whose success do they care about most? Their own. Whose business do they care about the most? Their own. Whose paycheck do they care about the most? Their own. And when you understand that and you speak to that into people about what they want, what's their benefit, what they can get out of it, what their life can change, guess what? Your life's going to change automatically, right? Because service to many is what leads to greatness, right? If you want to be great, find a way to serve the many. And guess what? When you play to people's own desires, they're going to run harder for that. And selfishly, guess what? When you allow people to be selfish and you're talking to them about their goals and they accomplish that, again, your goals will accomplish automatically. So how do you do that, right? Well, number one, you have to understand their motivations, right? You have to understand why they're doing this business. What's their purpose? What's their reason? You have to understand their short-term goals, their long-term goals, right? You have to understand their pain points. What's not working in their life that if they took Remon seriously could fix that or correct that. And again, we talk about it. Maybe they love their job, but they hate their money, the amount of money they make, and now they can do the job because they love it, and Remon takes care of the money. Or maybe they love the amount of money they make, but they hate their job, they hate their boss. Well, guess what? Now through Remon, they can make that same amount of money, probably more, and leave that job, right? Or maybe they make a lot of money and they're just bored. They want something different, right? I look at, what's funny? I look at network marketing like a video game. So many people spend so much time on, what are most video games people playing? Like Grand Theft Auto, right? World of Warcraft or NBA 2K. They spend all this money, time, and energy building up their character, right? Accomplishing these tasks, going on these quests to build up their skill set, to get enough gold, to buy better items, clothes, to increase their attributes, right? Well, guess what? We're playing real life video game right now because guess what? You are the character. You are the avatar. It doesn't matter where you started, right? Guess what? By developing your skill set, your intelligence, right? Awareness, right? Charisma. These are, I'm such a nerd, right? This is Dungeons and Dragons. But anyways, I apologize if it's going over your head, right? Like I said, I wasn't that cool in high school and video games was my outlet, right? But imagine like this is real life. You can upgrade your character. You are your character. What do you want your life to look like? What kind of car do you want to drive? What kind of house do you want to live in? Right? Knowing all those things drives you. But guess what? When you know what those are for your team and you speak to them about that, guess what? It'll drive it further, the business further. And guess what? Because you're specifically tailoring it to them, they can see the bigger picture. They know what they'll get out of it, and when they know what the payoff is, they're willing to pay the cost. They're willing to pay the cost, right? When they know what the payoff is, they're willing to pay the cost. Okay, and that's the value. The next step is prioritizing their preference, right? When making decisions, you got to put their preferences first. We're going to talk about this a little bit later as far as preferences. We're going to lightly dive into the 4 color types because there's 4 personality types, right? And most people have a dominant color, right, and a second color. And guess what? When you know what someone is, you can speak to their language and their leadership style. They'll appreciate it more and the business will go a lot further, right? It's learning how to speak their language, right? Are they more about being direct, not beating around the bush, right? Some people are like, hey, just tell me what to do. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to do it. Okay. That's their preference. Some people, guess what? It has to be cause oriented, right? They get pulled in by like, hey, we need to get this thing happen. It's going to pull the team together by you getting promoted. It's going to inspire everybody else around you. And, it's going to help your upline get promoted. Everybody wins. Yes, right? Then there's the social aspect, right? Some people are very geared towards recognition, right? Hey, imagine how good it's going to feel when you get promoted. You walk that stage, everybody's clapping for you, cheering for you. We're going to get pictures and putting that on social media for everybody to see, right? And then some people, they're not driven by any of that. They're driven by facts, numbers, analytics. And when you talk to them, you give them the logical steps, and you give them the facts to back it up why it's a sound decision. So when you understand what people's preferences are in leadership style and you work with that, guess what? They're going to feel appreciated because they feel like you understand them. Okay. And when people feel like you understand them, they'll go to war with you. Okay. Next, offer personalized solutions, right? And again, what this means is very, very simple. Now, when I work with most people, I work in a group setting. When I identify leaders who are coachable, they have the desire, they have that work ethic, right? And they show up and they start putting in numbers, that's when we start working with them individually because they have certain needs that are a little bit different than the group, right? And so, guess what? You work with leaders individually and you work with up and coming leaders as a group, but you get personalized solutions, okay? And again, by catering to the selfishness and focusing on their needs, guess what? You build stronger relationships and achieve better outcomes, okay? Next is you got to provide encouragement. I know this seems like a no-brainer, but it's something that a lot of times we lose sight on, right? Providing encouragement is huge because again, as human beings, we are inherently emotional creatures, right? Offering words of encouragement and support can have a profound impact on someone's day, their confidence, and really their overall well-being, right? A few kind words goes a long way in uplifting and motivating others. Again, I shared this in the last training. The four most powerful words you can ever speak to somebody is, I believe in you. Those four words are four words that as we get older, we don't hear quite often. We don't hear, and we don't hear it from the people we need to hear it from the most, right? And not to get all psychological, but most of us have traumas from our parents, right? We were our parents because they didn't have manuals on how to be great parents. They didn't love us in the way that we needed to be loved, right? And so a lot of us we seek that as we get older, whether it's through other partners, through friendships, relationships, business, whatever it is, right? And so again, just speaking those four words, I believe in you, and taking it a step further, giving really big anecdotal evidence to back that up, sincere, genuine compliments, right? Providing a better future, you're going to make people feel unstoppable, right? So imagine, right? The game Mario, really old Mario, like I'm talking about the Nintendo, right? Remember that game Mario? You're going through the game, you're jumping up, right? You eat the mushrooms, you get bigger. But there's one item that makes you unstoppable. It's getting that star. All of a sudden, the music speeds up, and you can just run through everything. That's what providing encouragement for your team does. That's what speaking vision into your team does, right? It gives them that star. It makes them feel unstoppable. And guess what? As they go out there and build the business, they're no longer susceptible to the negative influence of other people, right? And so that's huge. Provide encouragement. You got to go out there and help others win. I actually got this from Mr. Danny Bay at the Remont Direct and Above retreat. It was so good. I wanted to throw those in there. As leaders, there's three things we do, right? For our people, we challenge them, we celebrate them, and we coach them, right? Again, we challenge them, we celebrate them, we coach them. How do you challenge them? By loving on them, encouraging them to rise up, to be more, to do more, to have more. How do we celebrate them, right? Every little milestone accomplishment that they do, we recognize them for that, right? We help them feel seen and valued because of that. And then guess what? We also coach people when they're going in the wrong direction, right? And again, when it comes to leadership, as leaders, right, it's not about joining people and going in the wrong direction. It's redirect them and going the right direction. And that's why training is so important. Getting these calls are so important. It's not just about motivation, because if someone's going in the wrong direction, they don't need motivation to speed them up. Guess what? They need education to turn them around, right? And so that's why coaching your team is so important. And let me share with you something. At the end of the day, I'd rather be a leader that's respected than a leader that's liked. All great leaders are respected, but not all great leaders are liked, right? And again, what does respect mean, right? People respect you for what you've done. That's the first level, right? For what you've done. The next level is people respect you for what you know. And the third level, right? The pinnacle leader is where people respect you for who you are. Okay, simply who you are and how you move into this world. There's levels to this, right? And again, how do we get there? By going out there and building other people. That's our track record. Okay. Now, in order for us to be able to go out there and build relationships, we have to understand social styles, right? And we have to identify different social styles. And there's 4 different colors that we talk about. I'm just going to share it real quick, right? We have reds, blues, greens, and yellows, right? Reds, right? They're considered to be leaders and they're commander types, right? They're very, very dominant. They're strong, decisive, right? And in the wrong light, they don't mean to be. That's just how they're driven, right? They can come across occasionally arrogant, right? These are the leaders of the very strong A type, right? Because they know what it takes. They want you to succeed. They know you're making excuses. So they're straight to the point and telling you like it is. But here's the challenge of that. If you're that's how reds operate. If you're a red, everything I said, you're like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Lead me like that. Just tell me what to do. Tell me when I'm messing up. Tell me when I, need to pull my head out my, what, and I'll go out there and get it done. Right. Just tell me the task. But here's the challenge though. If you talk to somebody else like that, right, who's not that color, you might seem arrogant, cocky, and it might rub people the wrong way, even though that's not your intention, right? Then you have what we call greens. Green personality types, they're very mental types, right? With their personality. They have a strong emphasis on thinking, evaluation, and assessment. These are the people on your team, right? That you just simply can't tell them what to do. A red, you say, hey, go up and set that call party. I need you to put in 3,000 volume, promote this person to manager, this person to manager. A red, like, all right, done. If that's what I need to do, boom, right? A green can't simply just say that because they're like, why do I need to do that, right? And here's the challenge with greens, right? They ask a lot of questions because they need to know the information so they can make the most informed decision. Now, what happens is greens greens who understand that, right? They're some of the best people. These become product experts, component experts, because they need to do everything before they make decisions. The cons of being a green is sometimes you get analysis paralysis. The other con of being a green is that sometimes, right? Remember I talked about reds and greens, right? If a red talk to a green, how a red talk, you get this done, boom, boom, boom. A green will be like, why? Why are you being so arrogant? Why are you being around what is it? Right? What is the purpose? Now, a green talking to a red might look at a green and be like, why are you being so difficult? Why are you asking so many questions? Why can't you get with the program? When in reality, a green just doesn't have enough information yet, right? So with them, you got to break it down like, hey, the focus of this week is we got to go out there, we're going to do 3,000 volume. And how we're going to, do that is we're going to focus on getting this person to manager, right? And the reason why it's important for us to get this person to manager is so that way this person becomes senior manager, which is going to count towards your team leader run. Right now, guess what? I gave them enough information where they're like, okay, this is the action you want me to take. This is the result. This is the benefit. I can get behind it. Does that make sense? Right. So understanding people's styles, right? What is a blue? Right. A blue, they're very social personality type. They're like the life of the party. Okay. They display characters such as, they just like anything fun. They like to be entertained. They don't like things that are boring, right? They're very recognition driven. They're like very look at me. They tend to wear flashy clothes, bright colors. And again, it has to be fun, right? And when it comes to a blue, how do you motivate a blue? Like I said, like, dude, imagine how great it's gonna feel. You walking on stage, everybody's clapping and cheering, all the hard work you put in paid off. This is what we need to do to get there. And boom, you said that way, right? And what is a yellow, right? Yellows, they're very laid back, right? Their desire is harmony. Their desire is people. Their desire is community. And what's not funny, but the people that butt the heads the most are reds and yellows, and then greens and blues, right? Because a red might say all those things to a yellow, like, hey, you need to get this thing done. We need to do a K-pop up. We need to have at least 10 guests. We got to promote, 2 managers. We got to do 3,000 in volume. And the yellow's like, man, and the yellow would respond, wow, no, how are you? Like, you don't even care to see how I'm doing. You don't care what's going on in my life. It's just all about business with you. And the yellow might feel like the red doesn't care, when in reality, the red does care because he knows what the yellow's goals are, right? They don't believe in the extra time to fluff it up, right? And again, there's no right or wrong, it's neither here nor there. It's just understanding people's different personality types and working with them based on that. Okay. And so again, you can tell a lot based on someone's personality type, based on the language that they speak and how they communicate. And when you mirror that to them, right, you'll know how to lead them and work with them. And I think that's extremely huge. Right. And, Chris Kim taught me this very, very long time ago. He says, Julian, as a leader, you got to be strong to the strong, week to the week, right? And when he said that to me, at first I didn't really understand. I go, what does that mean? He goes, people that show up very strong and confident, you have to be that way too, because that's what they respect. People that are a little bit more timid, right? You got to show up more reserved, right? Matching their energy. Still be you, just dial back the energy. And he goes, and guess what? That's what's going to make people feel safe, because people want to work with people that are either like them or people that they like. And how do you do that, right? By taking the time to understand people, their styles, and working with them based on that, right? And then again, adapting your leadership style, right? And adjusting your approach to accommodate the needs and preference of each team member, right? How I talk to, Susan is different than how I talk to, Alan, right? How I talk to Alan is different than how I talk to, my fiance Yvonne or any other leaders. I talk to them differently based on their leadership style. Okay. Next, right? Understanding social styles, building rapport. You want to develop a personal connection with each team member by adapting your communication style to their social style, right? And fostering trust and camaraderie. And again, you want to have your people get to know you. You wanted to build that relationship, right? Because people prefer to work with people they like or people they want to be like, right? And so again, building rapport, connecting with them where they see that they're not just another number, they're just not another planner in your organization, right? That they are unique individual, they are important, right? And at the same time, when you understand social styles, you can leverage different strengths, right? You can leverage different strengths, right? And again, later on, one thing you're going to notice is that when companies throw big events, you're going to notice that they have different people who have different leadership styles train certain topics because it's naturally their strength and everybody comes together, right? Think about it. Who do you think trains the social media stuff? Probably all the blues. Who do you think teaches all the comp plan stuff? Probably all the reds, right? The vision stuff, right? Who goes over all the promotions and packages and, what the call to action? The blues, right? And then, all the other fun stuff, the community, the recognition, the yellows, right? So you're going to notice that. Okay. So understand that. And when you understand social styles, it's going to be very easy to manage conflicts. You have no idea, or maybe you do. Sorry, I shouldn't assume, right? A lot of miscommunication that happens in this business is simply because a red's talking to a yellow, like a red and not a yellow, right? A blue's talking to a green, like a blue and not like a green. Does that make sense? And a lot of that happens. And what's interesting is a lot of times both parties want the exact same thing. They have the exact same goals. They're just communicating it differently. And that's where the breakdown is, right? So if you think about the 4 personality types, it's very similar to love languages in relationships, okay? And again, there's a lot of great resources on that. For those of you that want to dive more in detail about the color types, I might do a training later on if a lot of people want it. But also, there's a lot of great resources and books that you can read to be able to study that as well. So if you send me a message on Instagram, slide into the DMs, right? I'll be more than happy to give you that information and resource as well. And again, a lot of this information, let me share with you where I got this from. People go, Julian, how do you know so much? And how do you have so much information? And, I have intrusive thoughts, right? That's my autism, my ADHD, but I'm trying to decide how much I want to share and whatnot, right? But for me, I understood. Mr. Danny Bay shared something with me a long time ago. He says, Julian, everything you need to say or do to become successful, someone's already said it, someone's already done it. So if you find those people, do what they do, say what they say, you'll have what they have. And that sparked something in me because of my autism. I take everything very, very literally. And for me, before I can get into it, before I get fully behind something, I need to understand logically why behind it, why it's important, right? And I have to see all the dots connect. Growing up, it was very, very annoying and I couldn't get a lot of things done. But because I had to learn a lot different and because it was very, very challenging, I had to put more effort into it. And because I put more effort into it, I happened to be very, very good at difficult things. The downside, though, is a lot of very simple things I'm very, very bad at. And so knowing that, when I first got started in this business, I'm like, okay, this is a business of people. I need to probably learn people. And I go, someone's already done it. Someone's already said it. So I looked up books, right? How to communicate with different people. And boom, I got that. How to become an effective presenter. Boom, I got that information. And guess what? I studied it. I practiced it. I found great people, right, who were good at the business in the areas I wanted to be good at. And I emulated them, right? Because not all leaders are organized. Some are great speakers, but they're not very organized. I learned how to speak from the speakers, how to be organized from the organizers, systems from the system people, and how to build culture from the people that are really good at building culture. And I created it my own, right? And here's what's exciting. That information, all that's available for you as well. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later on, but that's why it's so important, right? To ask yourself, what level of the game are you playing at and how good do you want to get? Because that information is out there, okay? So how do you build long-term relationships in this business? Number one, listen more than you talk. I think that's absolutely huge, right? Because believe it or not, we're also in the coaching business because we're coaching people, we're mentoring people. And one of the biggest things that I've learned is that we have 2 ears, 1 mouth, and we need to use it proportionally, right? So when you listen more than you talk, number one, you get more of the information. And how many times do we hear someone say something and we think we know what they're talking about? We immediately jump in to give solutions and they were way off base because we didn't let them finish, okay? So listen more than you talk. And also, when you listen more than you talk, a lot of times people are going to solve the problems on their own, okay? Ladies, I know. You've been trying to tell us men this forever, right? And for all the men on this call, let me tell you, if a woman, your woman or a woman comes up to you and wants to vent to you, they do not want 99% of the time, they don't want a solution. I know as guys, our mentality, ladies, just so you know, is we want to fix it. We want to fix it for you, right? We want to take your pain so you don't feel that pain anymore. We just want to get rid of it, right? That's how our mind thinks, right? We're fixers, right? And so that's where our mind goes. And again, it has the best intention. It's not that we don't care. It's not that we don't want to listen to you, right? It's just we want to solve your problem. But men, understand when women come up to you, they don't want you to solve their problem. They just want to feel heard. And oftentimes when you let them share, what ends up happening, right? And this works in leadership too. At the end of the conversation, they go, I know I'm just making excuses and I just need to like, really get serious. Or, I know I'm overreacting, blah, 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 blah. And oftentimes, again, they'll offer their same solutions. Most of the time, they already know the solutions. They just want to feel heard. They just want to be able to vent to someone they trust, right? So again, listen more than you talk. One, you're gonna get a lot of valuable information from that, and you can diagnose what the actual situation is to get the right feedback and direction. And also gives them the space where they know that you actually care about what they have to say, and oftentimes they'll solve their own problems, right? Next is care more than you instruct. I think that's huge. One of the biggest things that I've learned is that people don't care how much you know, so they know how much you care. Because you got to touch the heart before you ask for the hand, right? And again, I know we're in the coaching business, so often we want to be quick to coach, we want to be quick to instruct, right? Especially men. Women are infinitely a lot better at network marketing than us men because they understand the value of relationships, right? Connecting, really diving deep, right? Now, the trouble though, right, is if somebody has a pity party and they're being a victim, it's okay to let them vent and figure it out. But as leaders, it's very important that we decline the invitation to the pity party, that we don't join in it with them, and then we don't become victims with them, right? We let them vent, right? We hear what their concerns are, then we ask them what's the best way for us to support them, right? But care more than you instruct. I think it's so huge because when your team knows that you genuinely care about them, you have genuine concern for them, that you're willing to go the extra mile for them, right? They'll go to the ends of the earth for you. And you heard me say this on week number 1, right? The secret to building, a massive organization with strong leadership is that you got to find people that be willing to cut off their right arm for you. But how do you find people that are willing to do that? Right? By having people know that you're willing to cut off both arms for them. You're willing to give up more than you're asking of them. You're willing to do more than what you're asking for them. And you care more than they care, right? The next one is give more than you take. I think that's so huge. I'm a firm believer of that, is that when you do things only for yourself, that's who you're going to be left with. And when you serve others, you're going to have greatness. And when you give, it's always going to come back tenfold. It might not come back with that person. It might not come back right then and there, but it's going to come back, right? And again, I'm a firm believer in that. That when you provide value, that's a lot larger than transactional, right? That we're, transformational versus transactional and relational. It goes a long way. It goes a long way, right? And last, be truthful, right? And what does being truthful mean? It means, also giving people valuable feedback to let them know how they've been showing up, what they can do to improve, right? And also by sharing them what they're doing right. Okay. That's what builds trust. Okay. Now, the other thing I want to share with you about relationships too, and also this is very important, is know when to turn away, right? Work with those that deserve it, not necessarily need it. And this is a conversation we don't really talk a lot about in leadership. Well, in leadership we do, but not on regular calls because, we got to be warm and fuzzy. I'm just kidding, right? But you got to know when to turn away, right? You got to recognize when someone is not willing to change. Okay. You cannot want it more for them than they want it for themselves. Jim Rohn said it best, right? I used to say, I'm going to make sure my team makes it, even if it kills me. And I almost died, right? So understand that, right? You want to be a lighthouse and not a tugboat. And I share this example. Both save boats. What's the difference? A tugboat goes out into the ocean, ties itself to another boat, dragging it to shore, right? To save that boat while damaging itself. A lighthouse, what does it do? It stands tall. It shines their light and shows the direction, right? By leading by example, pointing in the direction and leaving it up to the ships to save themselves. Okay. So again, if someone's repeatedly unwilling to make positive changes or unwilling to put the necessary effort, it may be time, right, to work with them as in a group setting, right, but no longer as an individual for right now. And why is that? Because they have to want it. Because if you keep working with people that don't want it, it's going to drag you down. It's going to make you question your own efforts. It's going to make you question your own skill. Okay. Also, avoid enabling unhealthy behaviors. Right. Continue to engage with someone who's unwilling to improve can enable their negative behaviors and prevent them from taking responsibility for their own actions. Right. Sometimes the greatest opportunity is a missed opportunity. And what do I mean by that? Right. If someone's not being coachable and not willing to follow the system, let them do their own thing. Say, hey, like obviously you have an idea how to do this, and I respect that. We're all independent distributors. So you go ahead and do that, right? And let me know if it works out for you because I want it to work out for you. But I'm gonna go work with this group, right? And guess what you do? You go work with a new group and you blow that new group up. What's going to happen? All the other people that were not coachable are going to come back and say, hey, I see the result you're having this new group. Like, I'm willing to be open. And here's the best part. Even if they don't change and become open, guess what's going to happen, right? It's not going to matter because your business is growing. Okay. Next, you want to prioritize your own well-being. I think that's huge. Your mental and emotional health should always come first. So don't sacrifice your own growth and progress to cater to someone else who's unwilling to change, right? And set healthy boundaries, right? Establish clear boundaries and limits on what you're willing to tolerate. Because so at the end of the day, right, we get what we tolerate. We get what we tolerate. The only reason why people keep showing up a certain way is because we tolerate it. People respect what we inspect. That's huge, okay? Okay. And so we're going to wrapping up this call very, very soon. So a couple things that I want to lead with, right? So that's the relationship segment, but I wanted to add in something extra special, right? To kind of tee up for next week's call. Actually, next Sunday, we're not going to have a call. It's going to be the week after that. But we're going to be talking about what makes a 10-point leader. So imagine leadership on a scale, right, with 10 different categories. It's going to give you an opportunity to audit yourself. So that way you know what your strengths are, where you're showing up well, and where you can improve on. Very, very valuable, right? But I wanted to squeeze in some leadership stuff just to get your mind turning. And the reason why is because right now Black Friday is coming up, and we want to make sure we get as many people into the business as much as possible, get as many people to planner as much as possible by Black Friday so people can capitalize on double the commissions, okay? And also people that are managers, get them the senior managers so you can triple their commissions, okay? Now, at the end of your life, you're going to end up with either results or reasons. The results you want or the reasons why you don't. Okay. So let me ask you a question, chat, right? In the chat, right? In life, what do you want? Results or reasons? Go ahead and put it in the bottom. Okay. So let's talk about it. So as leaders, there's only three things that we're responsible for, and it's in order of importance. Number one, getting people promoted is our number one responsibility. Getting people to manager. Okay. Number two, getting events larger. Let me share with you something. This business is all about real estate. The team that has the most people at convention is going to be the team that makes the most money, right? The people that have the most people on these calls is going to be the people making the most money. So I want you to look at the orientation calls, the overview calls, right? The training calls as real estate. Your goal every week is to have more people on that call than you did the week before. If you're just simply focusing on that, on the first two, you're focused on getting people to manager and you're getting more people to every event than the last event, right? Number three will take care of itself, which is get people paid. Because 1 + 2 is 3, right? Get people promoted, get events larger, get people paid. That is the order of priorities of what's important. And you take care of that, the business will take care of itself. It'll create massive momentum. Okay. So I'm pretty sure everybody on this call wants to be a producer, right? They want to be a high level producer, right? And so how do you do that? You have to develop the mindset of a producer. So how do you do that? How do you develop the mindset of a producer? The first question you got to ask yourself is, what level of the game are you playing at? Because remember, I shared with you, right? We get paid based on the value that we bring to the marketplace, right? They're not going to pay you professional money for amateur skill. So you got to work on your skill to make that professional money. And I share that because it's so important, right? You see someone like, Dr. Rimka come in and hit director in less than 45 days. Like, how does she hit it so fast? Well, guess what? She's been playing her game of life at such a high level as a doctor that people naturally trust her. She already built the rapport. She already built the trust. So when she got involved into Remont, right, she was blessed based on everything, all the relationships she's already built in, right? But again, what level of the game you're playing at? Think about in terms of sports, right? There's Pee Wee football. There's high school football, there's college, and there's professional. Each level has more responsibilities. The intensity is higher, but the pay is also higher. So again, what level of the game are you playing at? Because if you're playing Pee Wee Remont, you're gonna get Pee Wee results, right? If you're playing college level, you get college results. If you're playing at the professional level, where your goal is to become the best of the best, leader, producer, right? Whatever it is, the results are going to come and you get rewarded proportionally. Okay. The next step, the mindset of a producer, is to have a vision oriented focus versus a random oriented focus, right? What does that mean? Okay. I'll give you two examples. I want you to imagine we're building a house, right? In the first example, right, you're building someone else's house. You're contracted for a job, right? So what are you doing? Essentially, you're laying down brick and mortar. That's all you're doing, brick and mortar, until it builds this house, right? You're taking that same action. Right. But for you, it's just a job. For you, it's mundane. It's routine. You show up. That's it. Now, I want you to imagine you're building your own house. This is your own house that you're building, right? Guess what? What are you doing? The same thing, laying down brick and mortar. But what's the difference, right? One, you're building someone else's house. You're just going through routine until the job gets done. On the other one, you're excited because you know every step that you take, every piece of brick that you lay down, you're one step closer to building your home, building your vision, right? We have to be led by vision, right? Vision's powerful, right? It's a preview of what's to come. Does that make sense? You know, Helen Keller said it best. What's worse than being blind is having sight but no vision. So again, you can't simply just go through this business just doing K pop-ups. That's one of the biggest mistakes I see people do. I'm not saying K pop-ups are a mistake, but they just go, okay, I'm gonna set up a K pop-up. I'm gonna invite some people. I'm gonna get some customers. I'm gonna get some planners, and then I'm gonna repeat the process. Okay. When you do that, guess what? You're only gonna get certain level of results, right? But if your mindset's, hey, the next step's become a team leader. In order for me to become a team leader, guess what? I got to help 3 people become senior manager, 7 people become manager. So we're going to be setting up these K pop-ups. And number one, we can get customers to fill that volume, but more importantly, planners to identify the next layer of leaders that we can develop into managers and senior managers to get the job done. Same action, different motivation, different drive, okay? Makes a huge difference. The next thing I want to talk about, the mindset producer, there's a difference between production and pin. Focus on the production, not the pin. Okay. And there's a great quote. It says the secret to winning the game is not focusing on the score on the scoreboard, it's to focus on getting better at the game. Because if you focus on getting better at the game, guess what? The game will take care of itself. So what do I mean by that? Right? People that only focus on the pin, here's what tends to happen. They hit the rank and then they drop down. Okay, they make this big push, they hit it, they drop down, right? I mean, not drop down, but they're not making as much because of the push. You want to focus on production because if you focus on the production, right, how many managers you need to produce, right, that'll take care of the volume automatically. And guess what? When you actually hit the rank, you now have leaders with you versus just the rank. Does that make sense? Okay. The next thing I want to share, the mindset of a producer is a producer understands they have to be the leader to find the leader. Okay. Get rid of that myth. You know, one of the biggest myths that people say is you're just one recruit away. We don't know that, right? We don't know that. So, but we also have this myth that if I could just find that one person, that one leader shows up, it's going to blow everything up. And let me share with you something that is rarer than, a Charizard in a Pokemon, first edition booster pack. Just kidding, right? You got to be the leader, find the leader, right? The idea that you can just find someone that's going to blow it up, right? It's a blessing, but don't count on it, right? The better thing to do is to be the best leader that you can be to attract other people that are like you or to attract other people that want to be like you. And that's going to blow up the business. Ask yourself, okay? If you were your sponsor, would you be happy or would you be sad with how you're showing up? Would you be proud or would you be disappointed? Be the leader that you'd want to follow, okay? But also be the rep that you would want to have. So let me say that again, okay? Let me change it up. Be the leader that you'd want to follow, but also be the planner you'd want to have sign up. When you do that, you're going to attract people that are like you, and you're going to attract people that want to be like you. Does that make sense? And that's the cheat code. We don't get what we want. We get who we are. So if we want more, we got to become more. Okay. So step into that position. The next is the mindset of a producer is a producer understands the grind. And more importantly than the grind, because they understand, right? The grind is fair. The grind understands exactly what you put into it and will never give you anything that you do not deserve. Okay. And at the same time, producers understand the importance of daily results, DR, daily results, whatever benchmark that is. And, Miss Brianna Michaels, brand new senior director, well, not really brand new, right? Well, actually, was it this month? Yeah, it was this month, right? No, end of last month, October, right? But brand new senior director, she had a great training at convention and she talked about the Seinfeld method where she has a calendar and every day she has a set standard of action she needs to take that produces results. And what does she do? Every day she makes an X on that calendar. Her whole goal is to not break the chain, right? And you know why that's valuable? That goes back to focusing on getting better at the game so the game can take care of itself, but also focus on daily results, right? Rome wasn't built in a day. It was built day by day. So understand that your business is the same way. It's not going to be built overnight. It's not going to be built in a day. It's going to be built day by day. So when you focus on daily results, moving the needle forward, it's going to make it happen a lot faster for you, okay? Not only that, but understand the mindset of producer. A producer takes 100% responsibility in their business. They understand if it's to be, it's up to me, Okay. You are 100% responsible. All the information's already out there, right? You don't have to wait for your upline to look for it, to ask the questions. You can go find it yourself as well. And understand no one at the end of the day should want it more for you than you want it for you. Right. And again, if it's up to be up, if it's to be, it's up to me, right? Which means, it's up to you to make it go out there and happen. Right. So now that you understand the mindset of a producer, you also have to understand the skill set of a producer. Okay. And perhaps later on in the future we'll do a training on each one, right? Presenting, right? A producer knows how to present. So if you want to be a producer in this business, you have to learn how to present this business as fast as possible. How do you learn how to do it? By going on the overviews, right? Watching other people do it, learning how they do it, practicing it, doing it, in your own style, and more importantly, actually going out there doing it in front of prospects and guests. Okay. Number two, a producer knows how to launch people and their business, right? Now, how do you get good at launching people? By getting on the orientation calls, by watching how other leaders promote it, how they explain it, how they go over it. Okay. Why? Because you want to know how to do all these things yourself so you can be self-sufficient, right? Right. Closing for results, not just closing for results, getting people started, getting people to the next event, right? And, by getting people on the next call, whatever it is, right? Enrolling people. The other skill set of producers know how to promote events, right? Physical events and also non-physical events. For example, physical events like calls, right? If you're in Irvine, Orange County, the Monday night headquarter call meeting. I'm there every Monday with Mr. Tim Herr, right? Also, what's another event? Black Friday is coming up. Leaders understand that, right? See, producers understand, hey, I got to get as many people positioned to be manager by Black Friday so they can double their commissions, right? I need to hit manager so I can double my commissions, and I need to get as many people in as possible. Why? Because Black Friday is going to happen. Our products are sexy. They work. They make for great gifts, right? Volume's going to come in, and we want everybody to win, okay? So getting good at promoting events. Next, skill set of producer, great at promoting managers. So good at getting people to managers. That is the number one skill set. That if you master that, you can take care of everything else. Because guess what? You don't have to be a master presenter. Just get people on the overviews. You don't have to be a master orientation, at launch people, get people on the orientation calls, right? I've known people that have made six figures without knowing how to present and how to launch, right? Now, we don't let that happen forever because, they have to learn how to do it so it duplicates. But, if you get good at producing managers, promoting managers, your business is going to grow, right? And next, developing leaders, creating a system to develop leaders to become more, okay? Now, again, we already talked about this slide, but I want to rehash it again. Leadership responsibilities. Get people promoted. That's number one. Getting people to manager. That's the number one focus, right? Number two, get events larger. You want to grow these calls. I challenge everybody on this call, right? How many people do you have on this call today? I want you to have one additional person, at least one. Just grow this call by next week. Have one additional person on there, okay? And lastly, getting people paid. If you get people promoted to manager, right, the new people, you focus on growing the calls, focus on growing the events, you'll get people paid automatically. Okay. So building momentum, that's all we want to learn how to do, right? And we're almost done. So how do you build momentum? Momentum is built in three stages. The first one is enthusiasm. The second is system. Third is duplication. What does that mean, right? When you first get started, it's all about having enthusiasm. IASM, the last four letters of enthusiasm stands for I am sold myself. It's about you getting excited. It's about you doing as many calls as you can, doing as many events as you can, doing as many K-pop-ups as you can, right? In the very beginning, what does that look like, right? Maybe your team's just starting out. You just made lunch. The leader's calling you, right? You're like looking at your call. You're looking at the lunch. Guess what you do? You pick up the phone call, right? You let your lunch get cold. You can reheat it later. Why is that important? Because we cannot waste time, right? We're creating momentum. That's going to come from excitement because success loves speed. Think about a plane. In order to get off the ground, it has to go through immense speed to fight through gravity to get to that next level where it can coast, okay? Now, when is a system important? A system is when, your team's so large, you physically can't be at everything and do everything. And that's why you need to have a system, a structure to get people through, right? Remember, let me tell you what momentum is and what momentum's not. Momentum is not having a lot of new and excited planners. That's what most people think. Momentum is having a lot of new and excited planners who follow the system. System is so important. Getting people started and not having them follow the system is like going to the bathroom and not wiping your butt, right? Or if you're Asian from Asia, washing it with a bidet, right? And that's why some of your businesses stink, right? Because you're just simply getting people signed up. You're not starting them. You're not having them go through the system, right? And then how do you advance momentum, right? Create, sustain, advance. You create momentum through enthusiasm, right? You advance momentum by having a system, and then you advance it by duplication, right? And what's the best way to duplicate? It's not about doing what works. It's about doing what duplicates. Okay. And that's the key. Ask yourself, if my people did what I did, how much money would I make? And that's the skills that you want to duplicate. That's the behaviors that you want to duplicate. And how do you duplicate it? By leading by example. It's easier to show them, right, than simply tell them. Okay. And I'll end it with this and we're done, right? So water pump analogy. That's how your business is going to go. And let me tell you something. We have a little bit over 90 days to push hard for Las Vegas. Okay. We have major events coming up. We have, just to share with you, Black Friday. That's going to be a huge influx of sales. For those of you that are running for a team leader, I'm a firm believer that a lot of the 50,000 volume that you need to hit it will get done in this small gap of Black Friday. But in order for you to do that, you got to position people, right, to hit manager and be manager before that happens so you can drive it and everybody wins. Why is that? Because the more momentum we have, the more people we position by Black Friday, the better we position ourselves and our people. Guess what? The bigger the check we're going to have in December. Right? December is usually when people feel the most stressed because there's Christmas. People are going out there and buying gifts. So imagine they get a big check during the most stressful time of the year. They're going to be more grateful. They're going to feel blessed because of remodel. They're going to be more excited. Then what happens? The new year happens. New Year's is when people start setting New Year's resolution. They want to lose weight. Deep talk, right? They want to lose weight. They want to make more money. They want to travel more. They want to spend more time with family. These are all pain points and all vision and strong motivations to drive people. And then guess what? We have to March for the convention. And we also have Valentine's Day. That's, our products are great for that too. So you notice we have a lot of impending events to create momentum, sustain momentum, right? That's why I'm telling every single person on this call, you have more than enough time. You make a decision right now, right? You focus on Black Friday, getting to manager and getting people to manager. You can hit team leader by convention easily. And many of you can actually hit director by convention easily. You're just one decision away, right? And so let me share with you, right? What does that mean in the water pump analogy? So you have the water pump, right? This is what creating momentum looks like, right? And, you start with an old-fashioned water pump, right? It's old-fashioned. It's used to draw water from a well, right? It requires consistent effort to prime the pump, get the water flowing. So what does that mean? You're putting a lot of effort. You're creating that pressure, right, for water to rise up. And then very beginning, guess what? No water is coming out. You're putting in more effort than what you see coming out. But as you prime the pump repeatedly, moving the pump handle, right, up and down to draw water from the well, it fills the pipe. And this initial effort is crucial to building momentum. That's what we've been doing since week one. We're priming the pump, getting people into these trainings, getting people positioned, right? Teaching people the culture of this business. And guess what? As you do it long enough, you're going to create steady stream of water. Once the pump is primed, a steady stream of water begins to flow. This represents the momentum or results that comes from consistent effort over time, right? Understand persistent pays off, because here's what I'm going to share with you, right? When you build the pressure, what happens if you stop? Right? You have to start back from zero because that pressure decreases. Most people who build this business, here's what happens. They stop when they're so close. And I'm here to share that you're closer than you think. What happens is it gets challenging, it gets tough, right? You got to go through that breakthrough, but your challenges are greater than your why. And then, you get disconnected, you beat yourself up, and then you slow down. The mistake that people make is they think that, okay, once I'm ready again to start over, and once I'm ready to start, then I'm going to pick up where I left off. And the answer is no, you actually start over again. And that's why it's so important not to stop, especially when it's most challenging. That's when you got to push through the hardest. That's where the growth comes from. Does that make sense? That's where you find out, what you're made of, because you never know how strong you are until being strong is the only option you have, right? And that's why it's so important, right? Pressure causes some people to break and other people to break through and break records, right? Because again, anybody can be great in the beginning, right? But it's when you're challenged, when your back's against the ropes, that's when we get a chance to see what you're made of and if you're really a champion or not, okay? So as you go out there and build this business, like I said, utilize every event that we have, get as many people to manager as possible, right? Leverage Black Friday. And I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to March in Vegas, we're Team 1%, actually every team, because I don't know who's on this call, right? It's really open to everybody. We're going to celebrate a record-breaking amount of senior managers. I don't even know how they're going to do it. Like for those of you at the last convention, you probably remember how long the senior manager line was and how long that team leader line was. The next convention, I don't know how they're going to do it. How we're going to recognize everybody. I don't. But that's the exciting part. Because imagine we have so many senior managers, team leaders, so many director promotions, right? Senior director, national director promotions that they have to change how they do recognition, period. That's what's going to happen. Many of you right now, you might not even have a planner yet. You might have just gotten your starter kit, right? Or maybe you haven't even decided you want to get started yet. Imagine in March 15 to 16, you're going to be on that stage, right? Imagine at the team leader event, you're going to rub shoulders with the top people in the company. You made it. You reached a new milestone. And all the hard work, everything you've been through was worth it. All the doubt, all the questioning, right? And you get to a place where you realize that you're home. You're now at a place where you're celebrated, right? Where you're valued, you're seen, you're respected, right? Because of what you've done and what you've done for others. That's what's waiting for you on the other side. I'm telling you, like Remon is going to be a $10 billion company. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years from now, this company is going to be unrecognizable. But the question is, will you still be here? And where will you be at? Because I promise you, opportunity creeps up on you like a snail, but it'll pass you by like a bullet. And we have such a unique moment in time where, as big as we've gotten, not everybody knows about it yet. And once it hits critical mass, we're going to have so many people joining. It's going to be wild. Some of the people that you don't talk to now are going to end up joining someone else's team. Mark my words. I promise you that. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me this Sunday evening. I do not take our time for granted. I love and appreciate every single one of you. You matter. Your success matters. And we have a mission here. Okay. Are we going to make a lot of money? Yes. Are we going to change our zip codes? Yes. Ladies, are you going to change, the heels on your feet, the purse underneath your chair? Absolutely. Guys, are you going to change, the car in your garage, right? Yes, but guess what? We're going to be helping a lot of people along the way. We're going to be changing so many lives, right? We're going to build a strong community, a place where people belong, a place where people feel safe, a place where people feel valued. And at the same time, we're going to have a lot of fun doing it. We're going to have so much fun. We're going to be creating so many memories. And, when we look back, our life's almost going to look like a movie. And when we tell our kids about it, our kids and our grandchildren are going to be inspired by us and not, some YouTuber that they see online that are doing pranks, right? Real heroes. You're going to be the heroes for your children and your grandchildren, and life's going to be changed forever. And not just that, but the amount of knowledge and skills that you're going to develop. It's not just going to end in Remon, right? With the amount of money you make in Remon, the recognition you get in Remon, the relationships you build in Remon, the skill set you build in Remon, you're going to take that and build other things everywhere, diversify, and we're going to build a wealthy community, right? And it's going to be huge. So I'm super excited. That's my vision. That's where my head's at. And so that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you so much for joining us. And I look forward to seeing every single one of you again on our next call. So that being said, have a great Sunday. Let's get it, everybody.